Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I want to thank everybody for attending Cordium's FINRA Registered Broker-Dealer year-end to-do list presentation. This is John Donegan. I'm the Vice President of Broker-Dealer and Annual Consulting here at Cordium. For those of you who reside in the East Coast and the Midwest, thank you for tuning in on this very cold day. I wanted to mention that Memorial Day is only about 187 days away, so if we could just hang in there for that. I know winter came early to the United States here, so hang in there. I'd like to begin the presentation. If everybody's already logged in, we will start going through some of these slides. At the end, if you would like to submit any questions on your console on the right-hand side, under Enter a Question for the Staff, you may put in any questions you may have for me regarding the topic. Today's agenda will be a review of the FINRA Renewal Program, the 2015 Renewal Program calendar that FINRA has issued, some very important reminders for our year-end, and a few other items for concern regarding the year-end compliance review we all must go through this time of year. It's a wonderful time of the year for all of us compliance officers. As a former CCO and compliance officer for various firms, I know how busy you all are, and again, I just want to thank you for taking some time out and gathering this information along with me here today. I appreciate it. All right, as the year-end approaches, many FINRA registered broker-dealers like yourselves are wondering if you've addressed all the compliance obligations for the year, as well as thinking about if there are any needs to be addressed by the end of the year. We're going to go through some of those. The renewal program, under this program, all of the broker-dealers are encouraged to review the registration of each of its representatives to ensure the following: the states they need to be registered in that are still accurate. I mention this because of the importance of making sure that where your reps are registered is where they are actually going to be prospecting clients as well as having business. If it is inaccurate and you are audited, you're going to have an issue with FINRA. They do not like the fact that if you are not registered in a state that you're possibly doing business in, and you will be subject to a fine, so be careful with that. All open branch offices that have individuals assigned to them are properly designated at either a registered branch or an OSJ. Again, if you're a larger broker-dealer, you want to make sure that your branches are properly registered and your OSJ is properly registered, and this is all located on Form BD. Under the program, the FINRA Renewal Program, firms have the opportunity to submit post-dated U5s, BR closures, and BDWs in advance of the preliminary renewal statements that was issued. Now, this renewal statement all came to each of you in the mail. This was addressed to the firm's regulatory renewal contact that was set forth by the firm in the FINRA contact system. We've seen issues, I've seen issues with this, that you didn't receive this renewal contact letter due to the fact that the wrong people are designated as FINRA renewal contact persons under the FINRA contact system. So go in and verify that. If you didn't receive the letter, this letter is addressed to the firm renewal contacts. It's from Jeffrey Weinstein, the Senior Director of Regulatory Services and Operations. It's dated November 2014, and it is regarding the registration renewal program. Everything is on here that I'm going to speak of. If you didn't receive this letter, again, go and figure out who is the regulatory contact in the system and make sure that's updated so you get this letter. This letter does outline preliminary renewal statements, payment options, flex funding, payment by check, late payment fee, and review of your firm's renewal reports. It's all on there. And again, we'll go through it piece by piece as we go through our presentation today. FINRA will begin allowing post-dated filings submitted beginning November 1st, which was the beginning of this month. Just be careful, all post-dated forms must reflect an effective date of December 31st of 2014. And again, on their website, which is a great resource, even though it's a little bit cumbersome, there's plenty out there on FINRA's website about this renewal program and the calendar. Firms are required to pay the entire balance of this preliminary renewal statement, regardless whether or not reps are added or removed during the renewal period. And what that means is if you're adding reps or removing reps, the preliminary statement has to be paid by the 12th. Now you can make payment obviously through ACH if you're set up. Please be careful. We ran into a firm last year that was not set up for ACH, and it took 2 or 3 days to set that up with FINRA, and their filing became late, and it was a $100 fine. So go in and make sure that you're able to make payments to FINRA for this. You can write them a check. I do not recommend that. You can write them a check and overnight it, but that is, again, there's time there, and you are on a schedule to get this done by December 12th. So it's advisable for you to get it not only on time, but review the registrations and make the required changes in post-dated or current filings prior to the preliminary renewal statements being printed, which you already got the preliminary statements. You were able to go on your web CRD account and look at the amount and make the payment as of November 1st. Again, no later than December 12th, and we'll get into why as we move along. All right, some of the things to remember. The web CRD is going to be closing for the year on December 26th at 6 o'clock. This is a week that FINRA, I have a friend at FINRA who tells me this is what they call busy week, or there's another word for it which I won't say. They shut it down, and not only do they do all their processing for web CRD, but they do system updates, system upgrades, removals, uploads. Everything gets done that week at FINRA. It's not that they shut down and go home. Most everybody at FINRA works that week and takes care of everything the system needs while it's down. They only do this 1 week a year, so making sure that you have everything you need to submitted before this deadline, because once they come back up, they are basically going to start a new year. So if any changes are made between the U4, U5s, Form BDW, between November 8th and December 26th, the renewal difference will be reflected in what they're calling the Final Renewal Statement, which is issued on January 2nd of next year. Now we'll get into what the difference between the two are. There could possibly be overpayments after you do your preliminary renewal account, and there may be some substantial amount might be credited to your account for 2014. Now these credits can come in the form of, as we know, FINRA is an SRO, and if you believe it or not, they are not for profit. So if FINRA makes a profit, which I believe they did 2 years ago, a refund comes to your daily account, and this amount can be rather substantial. Depends on how many reps you have and how much you normally pay. This credit usually comes in the first or second quarter, and a lot of firms don't even know it hits the account, so keep an eye out for it. You can actually request that these funds be sent to you, a check be issued to your firm. A lot of firms just leave it in there, and what that does is it keeps your daily balance account balance at a more than acceptable level. As you'll know, you'll go in and you'll see, and it'll say either sufficient or insufficient. If you leave the refund in there, if you get one, if we get one, then your account will always say sufficient for the most part. Again, the deadline for the final renewal statement, balance payments, and reporting, if you have discrepancies, is out in February. So you can make any adjustments, requests for payments, or discuss any discrepancies you may have with this information up until February 7th, 2015, when the system comes back up, which is in January. All right, this slide talks about what went on in October, so you've probably already done this, that on the 1st of October, FINRA suggests that all the firms review their registered persons to ensure they have properly and timely reported all appropriate information to Web CRD. This includes any uploads. If you're in the middle of a Web IR, they usually like to have those wound up by the end of the year. You'll notice, and I'm sure you've noticed if you've been in the business a while, that audits do not really begin past September and October because of this year-end closure. They don't like to have open audits going into where the system goes down for a week. So FINRA, in their infinite wisdom, decides that, if you're going to be audited, and if you're not audited by September or October, you're probably not going to see them in that fiscal year. But soon after, when the system comes up, also a lot of audit requests go out, so be mindful of that. If you weren't audited in the last 2 years, once the system comes back up, be rest assured that they'll probably be coming in. On the 27th of October, you were able to begin to submit post-dated Form U5s, BR closings, withdrawals, and all those need to be dated 12/31, again, for this renewal purpose. This is where the disparity between the preliminary and the final statements come in. If you are processing any of these items during this renewal period, it shows up on the final renewal statement, not on the preliminary, and there's where your differences may be, and we'll discuss that coming up. Okay, for November, the 1st has already happened, so you were able to submit these post-dated forms, BDW, ADVW, if any of you have a registered investment advisory attached to your BD, again, that has to be dated 12/31/14. On the 8th of this month, Web CRD and IARD had the available preliminary renewal statements, and they were generated and up on the website. Just about that time, these letters went out and were received around, I believe, one of my firms received theirs November 10th. And again, on the 10th, preliminary renewal statements and reports are available for viewing and printing. So if you haven't looked and you don't know what it looks like, please go on and check it out this month and see how much you owe preliminarily. Again, the differences between what you do now will show up on the final renewal program statement in January. Coming up in December, the 12th is the deadline. It's a headline. It's all in caps there. It's the deadline for receipt of preliminary renewal statement payments. Either ACH or a check for that preliminary renewal statement. Now you can decide to send FINRA the amount via wire or ACH, which is a wire, the amount for the preliminary renewal statement, and be done with it. If you do choose so, on the 15th, automatic transfers will begin to happen. And this is where FINRA will take the money from your flex funding account, of course they'll have to be funded, and transfer that into their renewal account. I've seen a lot of problems with this where all of a sudden my flex funding account is going down and I don't know why. This would be right around the 15th of December. If you haven't made a direct payment for your renewal statement, FINRA will take it for themselves. And this is to cover, obviously, the fees that are owed. This makes a choice for you. You can either, again, wire the amount and keep your flex funding account as is, or you can simply fund your flex funding account and let them take it out themselves. It's really a preference here. You really should have either one. And then these transfers, they will be conducted every day until Web's IRD shuts down for year-end processing. So they'll go out and look for the money in your flex funding account, which you can fund at any time. So if there is financial issues, if your firm wants to wait and put this up until the end, wait till the last minute, you can do it, although I don't recommend it. You can do it because the automatic flex funding account will be looking for these automatic transfers beginning December 15th. Okay, continuing, the 27th is the last day to submit filings prior to the year end. So any filings you submit on up until the 27th will be reflected in the final renewal statement. Again, we note here that FINRA will be closed on Saturday, December 27th, and staff support will be unavailable. Again, it's a Saturday. I don't know how many people call FINRA on a Saturday. I know I have over the years, but this Saturday no one will be there to answer. Sometimes it's kind of fun just to call them and not get an answer, just to feel a little bit of power there on our end. U4 and BD filing deficiencies, disclosure review, they will not do any of this. This again is why you won't see any auditors at the end of the year. System functionality just isn't there for that day and of course for that week. So again, get everything in before that time. The 29th of December, Web CRD and IARD will become available for records and renewals processing. This is when they turn the systems back on, and you can go in there and do a query and create pending filings. You just can't do any submissions, any actual submissions. Okay, moving on to the new year. On the 1st, Web CRD and IARD are unavailable due to the holiday, obviously. On the 2nd, they become available, Web CRD, complete functionality as of 5 a.m. I've actually gone on right around that time every year just to be sure, hold them to it, and it does seem to work. I think one year they were about an hour and a half late, and there was a production message when you went on, signed on. So we can start submitting form filings and approving registrations. Anything in queue will show up as items in queue, so you might want to look, see if there's any deficiencies or pending queued up items, and you can go ahead and continue with your filings. This is where overpayments are also transferred into the flex funding account. If you overpaid in your preliminary and they found out that the amount was actually less, this has happened. It doesn't happen a lot. But refund requests can be made from your flex funding account, and again, you can get a refund amount in a check or have them wire it into another account at your firm. On the 2nd, also, final renewal statements and reports are available for viewing and printing. The 16th becomes the deadline for receipt of final renewal statements and payments. This is the difference between your preliminary amount and your final amount must be paid. Again, on the 20th, this automatic transfers will begin to happen. Again, if you owe any monies, they will take it right out of your flex funding account to cover any renewal fees owed that have transpired during the period from now until Web CRD was shut down. Rule of thumb here is have everything done before the renewal program, so you don't have any surprises at the end of the year that you owe actually more. I've had this happen and gone to the CFO and the CEO of the firm, and they said, we thought this was covered. Why is there more? So just to keep everybody happy in the executive suite, make sure that your preliminary amount matches what your final amount should be, and this is easily achieved by simply having all your registrations and filings completed. Probably in the month of November would be the best time to do that. And again, transfers are going to be conducted every day until any outstanding renewal assessment is satisfied. I do want to mention that, which is not on any slide, that there is a fee. If FINRA does not receive a full payment of your registered preliminary renewal statement by the December 12th deadline, FINRA will assess the firm a renewal payment late fee, which will be assessed and shown on the final statement. So that can also create a difference, and executives aren't happy when they have to pay a late fee for anything. They calculate it like this: 10% of the member firm's cumulative FINRA renewal assessment, or $100, whichever is greater, with a cap of $5,000. So just be careful. I've seen these fees be in the $2,000, $3,000 range, and that's nothing you want to bring to the CEO, CFO of your firm. Say, whoops, I missed the December 12th date, and now on our final renewal assessment, it's going to say that we owe a little more. Nobody's happy about that. Okay, some very important reminders for the end of year. Again, you should review all Form U4 and U5s to ensure that the information is updated and correct. It's ancillary, but it's really important that residential and employment history is updated. It's nice for your reps to have their U4s be completely updated with even their employment history. If some firms they have left and they still have them listed as present, that's a mistake. So you want to make sure that where they're working is current, and where they were working is also the dates match up. Obviously, any applicable disclosures, we'll get into that here. Written acknowledgement of the firm's compliance manual. You want to make sure you receive that. These are items in each and every registered rep's files. Outside business activities that have been reported and up to date. I want to mention a little bit on this. I've seen issues with this where the rep will, in the annual compliance meeting, fill out his outside business activities report, and it's slightly different than what he has on his U4 from last year, be it in a different sentence, a different description, or he actually has another outside business activity. If this is not updated promptly, you could be subject to fines and or censures, because FINRA really likes to see that the firm is on top of what our reps are doing on outside business activities, that we are properly approving or disapproving outside business activities. And if you've had issues with this in the past and it's noted on a FINRA exit interview from an examination, then you really must make sure that any outside business activities match what the rep is saying to their U4 exactly, as they will even take a sentence which has been structured differently and say, whatever your rep is telling you is not what you're telling us, and they don't like that. Okay, private securities transactions, all the documentations, if you allow those, you want to make sure that everything's on file. Outside brokerage accounts, I do want to mention this in a little bit of detail. Make sure that they are properly reported and you're receiving confirms and statements as per your WSPs. Now, if you have an issue with this, recently in our business, firms like Cordium and other firms have taken it a lead role in this and have produced software that goes and retrieves this information for you, statements, confirms, and brokerage accounts, and you can put it against your watch list or what have you. You can customize these things as long as you're doing something, be it getting the envelopes of statements and putting them in a file, or using an outsourced firm like Cordium to keep track of this for you. Make sure you're doing it, because this is a huge way for you to catch a rogue trader, a problem rep, or somebody who is attempting to hide something from you in order to facilitate insider trading. This is how we get insider traders: his wife's account, the rep's family account, grandparents' accounts, anything in their household. I have to tell you, look, I know it's up to the rep. It's not up to us to make sure that they're not lying. Sometimes you just have bad reps who want to do this and try to get away with it. We can only do as much as we can and request the information. If they're not going to give you the proper information, then it's on them. But as long as that information is given to you, you need to reach out to the firm who they're trading with and make sure that you're either using an outsourced person to contact this firm and get confirms and statements, or you're getting them to your compliance departments, not coming through to an operational area. It really, when I was CCO, I'd like to have it addressed to me, so it would come right to my desk from the mailroom and I could review them properly. Again, this is this is the front line right here for insider trading and problems, and you really need to be prepared and be on top of this. And again, all your registered persons, they need to be registered in applicable jurisdictions. Make sure that the reps understand if they're going to prospect in a state, especially an email. You know how FINRA is. They'll come in, they'll look at your emails and say, I got a rep here that sent a prospective customer in Texas an email. Can I see his registration? And you know that sinking feeling when you know that this rep is not registered in Texas or wherever the state he is. So please make it very important to all the reps that if you intend to do business in a state or prospect in a state, we need to be and you need to be registered there. Talk to them about the cost of that too. I mean, if they have one prospective client, let them know that it's costly for the firm to register in each state, that the business they're trying to obtain makes it worth it for you guys to register there. Okay, a few other items of concern for year end besides the firm Christmas party. Review of the firm's website and accuracy for proper disclosures. I wanted to just talk about websites for a minute here. Make sure that you have on your website a point that takes persons who are visiting your website to FINRA or the SIPC. And this is a URL that you can click on that says we are a member of FINRA. Don't use their logo, just say member FINRA. They don't like you using their logo or the SIPC logo. And make sure that they can point to, and it goes right to their homepage, that includes the SIPC website as well. For those of you in the municipal bond business, if anybody out there is in a muni shop right now, I recently ran into an issue with a website that we said that we were members of the MSRB, and we were told by FINRA, the advertising department, that that is incorrect. That if you are a member of the MSRB, that means you are on the board of directors, which we certainly were not. So if you're going to put any links to, MSRB, the CBOE, the NYSE, make sure that you say that you're not a member of it, but you can point to it in their main page and have it connect to there so people know that what kind of business you're in. Okay, you should also ensure the annual privacy policy is delivered to all your clients for this year. This is very important. FINRA wants to make sure that this privacy policy is made available if it's on your website, and if you are delivering it to your clients via either email and or just letting them know it is available on their on the website on a statement, that's fine. Just make sure that the privacy policy is up to date and the delivery requirements set forth in your WSPs and under the FINRA requirement are met. Let's see, review and documentation, testing and updating as necessary the firm's business continuity plan. Please do the test. Usually, the best time to do this is the day after Thanksgiving when people are home. If you're using, laptops that you want to make sure are connected, it's a great time to test because the offices are usually closed. You can fire up your backup site and make sure that everything works. I did like to do this particular test around that time because of the fact that nobody was in the office, so make sure that is completed and documented. The Annual Compliance Questionnaire needs to be filled out. If you have any questions as to what that should look like, feel free to email me or speak to me about that. We have templates for you to use here under agreements that you may sign up with Cordium. And of course, you need to have your independent testing of your anti-money laundering program. Real quickly, I'll speak to this. The anti-money laundering program that you have set forth, FINRA has set forth a rule that you must have it independently tested. It doesn't mean that you can't use your firm to do this. Some larger broker-dealers may have a completely separate department with financial professionals in it. The finance department can conduct this test because it's independent of the broker-dealer in one way, shape, or form. You'll have to prove that to the regulator. And in that vein, a lot of firms just go out and hire someone like Cordium to perform this testing of your anti-money laundering program and issue the independent report. We do that here. I do that personally. Please feel free to contact me after this if you'd like to have this done for the end of the year. We could probably squeeze in a few by the end of the year if you're really in a jam. A few other things to keep in mind. Branch and LSJ exams have taken place for the inspection cycle this year. Again, attestations signed and returned, compliance meeting held. Make sure you document who was there. And if you've had any people remotely, make sure they also document the fact that they saw the presentation. Firm element training have been done for the year. I usually did it twice a year to satisfy the requirements. Usually did it around the summertime and had one at the end of the year. And of course, the OFAC of existing clients has been run. Again, if you have issues with that or need that to happen for your firm, please feel free to contact me after this presentation. Okay, we move on to questions. If you would have any, or if you have any issues or want to ask anything, you can certainly put it into the staff section. We have one coming in that if the deadline for the preliminary payment is not there is not sufficient funds in my Flex account, how can I make the payment? Again, we reviewed this earlier. You can either fund your Flex account for the amount of the preliminary payment, or wire the amount to FINRA, or even send them a check. I've seen firms who just say, look, I just want to pay this and send them a check. The renewal contact registration renewal program letter has the information to send via express overnight delivery or U.S. mail your checks to FINRA. And if you would like this, please feel free to email me and I'll give you the link to where this is located on the website. One other question came in. What happens if I do not or cannot pay the amount by the deadline? The answer to this question is a little scary here. Your firm you may lose the ability to conduct business. So this is how important this is. This is why we felt we needed to have this webinar and have everybody informed that wanted to be informed. It's because you can receive a statutory suspension for not paying this, and nobody wants that to happen. So just be careful. Make sure that your payments are on time and they make them. If you do not make a payment, they're not going to let you do business. Okay, that wraps up our webinar for today. Appreciate everybody signing in and paying attention. We're here to help, Cordium. We have a lot of tools and information to make this end of year go very smoothly. And if you would like further information, there's an email address, sales.us@cordium.com. So if you have any questions or want to follow up with any of the things that were mentioned on this webinar, please email that location. And again, we appreciate everyone coming into this webinar. And I wanted to mention that this is the first in a series of broker-dealer related webinars. Cordium has just ramped up our broker-dealer capabilities, and we're going to have 3 or 4 shorts, if you will. I know how you guys are. I was a CCO a few times, and we don't have a lot of time during our day, so we cut these down to a half-hour sessions. And please look for more information coming out from us in the future on these half-hour shorts. Again, we appreciate it, and please contact me if you want any follow-up on this presentation. Thank you very much, everyone.